Oh, God, help me. Oh, oh, God, help me. Oh, God, help me. Uh
Slade,
huh.
I have the crisis line on for you. They're going to take you from here.
Okay.
You have Hi, Slade.
What's gonna happen with
This
this
is Bruce from the
resolution of
Veterans
this
Crisis
case?
Line. Sorry, what?
Is she filing a new number for a new case, or what's happening?
I don't know. The only thing that I know that's happening is the White House hotline called on the Veterans Crisis Line and transferred you to me. Making a statement that you had said that the crisis line is, hanging up on you or something similar to that effect.
Yeah, that's who I called. Well, I called the White House hotline. I called the White House hotline first, and then in the message it says to call. You guys have pressed one button, and I did, and then it rolled over there, and then said wait a minute, and then disconnected. So I said I don't know if my phone number is just blocked now from up there, cause I call too much. I know the VA has complained about me calling the crisis hotline too much.
Well, I don't know if that really has anything to do with it or not, right? And the reason I say that is because it sounds like what you said is you tried to call the VA crisis line, call us up here, and when all of us are on calls with other veterans, then it rolls over to a backup center. And then, if you're waiting in queue for the backup center, then, additional things happen that try to get you through to us as soon as you can. We all are jammed all over the board, right? I don't know all of the specifics of how that works, but generally speaking, we do our best to answer every single call that comes through, and if we can't, we have contingencies to try to make sure that we answer every call as quickly as we can. Now, what you're saying is you tried to call us today?
Yes, about 10 minutes.
Okay. When was that phone call to us today? Do you know?
About 10 minutes ago.
About 10 minutes ago. And what happened? You're saying it bounced all over the place and then it put you on hold and then disconnected.
They transferred me from the White House switchboard, transferred me to the veterans hotline there, and its recording started talking or whatever, and said to hold a minute, and then it went dun, 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 dun. Like disconnected.
Again, I don't know exactly what happened with all that, but what I do know is that you've reached us now, and, can you tell me what's going on, the nature of your crisis that led you to reach out to us this morning?
That my attempts at getting any type of assistance or help with my VA health care is gone unanswered.
Okay. So, what are you trying to get as far as VA health care that they're not getting?
A pain management doctor, an orthopedic doctor, a neurologist, somebody to help me with my back, my neck.
Okay. Okay. Now, what VA medical center is it that you receive services from?
You got a pen?
I've got a system that...
The VA in Houston, the VA in Tomball, the VA in Lake Jackson, the VA in Alabama.
Okay. What is your current zip code?
77531.
I'm sorry, are you doing me on speaker or something?
No, I don't have no teeth in my mouth. I had no teeth in pulled off. I had all my teeth pulled out. Yeah, I can't hold the phone up to my shoulder. Both of my rotator cuffs are
I'm
blown.
having trouble hearing you. What's your zip again?
77531.
Alright.
Oh God.
So, based on the zip code, it looks like there's an outpatient clinic in Lake Jackson, right?
Yes.
And then Lake Jackson outpatient clinic, and that seems like it's pretty close to you, is tied to the Houston VA.
Just there yesterday. Yeah,
Now
just
you're
there
saying you're trying to
yesterday.
get
I left there yesterday
get
and went to
pain
my
management.
congressman's office, and my congressman's office saw me and said, "My God, son, you need to be in the hospital," and called an ambulance. I had just left the VA. That's how they sent me out of there in that condition to drive to Houston, some 70 miles away, to get some records that they say they can't get. They can't manage to fax a records request from their office to another doctor's office in 6 months. And are telling me that they can't take care of me because they don't have this document. So yesterday I attempted to drive to Houston and ended up being stopped by the police and put in an ambulance and shipped to the VA in Houston, that again told me that they're not going to help me and turn me outside onto the street in Houston, 60 miles away from home by myself with no way home and no way to walk, immobilized.
Okay. What's your, I mean, so you're having an issue with eligibility for health care. Basically, they're saying you're not eligible for VA health care.
I'm
And you
90%
need
service-connected
certain documents to
disability.
prove it.
I'm 90% service-connected disability.
Okay. Huh.
I think I have access there.
What's your last four?
6165.
And what paper are they saying that they need?
Some medical records from some doctor I saw in Houston for like 3 months. That are absolutely worthless. There's nothing in there that they have my MRIs at the VA hospital. They have the MRIs there. This other doctor was just treating me as a pain management doctor. He wasn't doing any type of surgery or anything like that. He was just providing me with muscle relaxers and pain narcotics, morphine. I've been taking morphine 3 times a day for almost 5 years. I was in Alabama under the Obamacare plan and was stable and okay, but I moved back here to be closer to my family. My brother died. My mother was sick. She has since passed away, and I'm sitting here suffering to death, and everybody that I call keeps running me around and running me around. And I imagine this is why the veterans are committing suicide, because it's just an endless loop of bullshit that we go through. The White House has now referred me back to you. You referred me to the White House. I call the White House to get somebody up there. They refer me to some other person at the VA that resolved my issue without ever even talking to me, and I still haven't seen a doctor, which was my issue. Issue's not been resolved, but they've closed it out.
Yeah. I mean, now, the thing is, what I'm hearing is, I used to get pain medications, and the VA is wanting the information from the other doctor that treated me and provided me with pain medications.
Right.
Before they're willing to give me any pain medication.
No, sir. No,
So
sir.
they're
No,
not
sir. No,
giving
sir.
any pain
No, sir. They are not offering me narcotic pain medication at the VA. They said that their boss said no narcotic pain medication to VA patients. So
Okay.
I said, that's not what I'm asking you for. I'm asking you for a steroid injections that I've been getting every quarter in my back that are non-narcotic. I've asked for some bracing and some mobility devices to help me get around and deal with the pain that they're not helping me deal with. And then to provide me with some support here so I don't have to live in my own squalor and starve to death. I haven't eaten in 5 days. I'm telling you, I can't cook and eat. And I can only eat like soup because there's no teeth in my mouth. So, not like I can go to Burger King and get a hamburger. So, I'm starving to death. That's making me even more agitated. And yesterday, they ran my ass I hadn't been out of my house in 5 days, and yesterday I traveled probably 200 miles and went into 5 different buildings and ended up with 0. And I called the White House hotline today, and all they want to do is transfer me out there as fast as they can. And I just don't know how much more of this I can take.
Mhm.
You know.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like you're in a lot of pain. You're in so much pain. You're saying that you're not really able to eat or function.
It's been 6 months. I get worse and worse every day. I can do less and less every day. When they first took me off of that medicine, I was able to kind of maintain around here as long as I didn't do too much. But then the little bit that I was doing would start hurting, and so slowly things stopped getting done. Slowly, I can't wash the dishes in the sink right away, and then the next day there's too many dishes in the sink to wash it all. Now I can't even make a pot of coffee because all my dishes are dirty and I can't wash them. I just sit here day after day begging for somebody to help me, and nobody's helping me. And they're talking about how good the VA healthcare is, and all this support system that's there to help us, and I'm not getting any support. All I'm getting is runaround. They deny me my medical records at the clinic. How can you go to a clinic and ask for your records and then say no? Print it out. Their records are here. They're on your system. Print them out so I can have them. They said no. I asked them to print me out a sheet of my appointment log. No current or present appointments. I don't even have an appointment to see anybody up there, dude. There's no treatment plan. There's no going forward. And the guy has all the medical documentation up there as a doctor that he would need to read those and make a determination of what to do next. Hell, if he wants it, he could order his own damn MRIs and just start from right now. Two of those 3 MRIs are 2 years old anyway. But they all just sit there and giggle and laugh and point at you.
Issues getting medical care. Issues getting medical care for your medical conditions and pain management and those kinds of things, to the point where you are in mental health distress by extension and having trouble taking care of your own basic needs.
Yes. Yes, exactly.
And yet you go to the VA and, you're trying, they want to schedule appointments and wait on paperwork, and it's a process, and, as far as, getting you immediate pain relief, that doesn't seem to be happening.
No.
And even the appointments that you're trying to get scheduled haven't happened. Based on what you're telling me.
No,
Again,
no, they called me with an appointment last week to go to a doctor 100 miles away. You have an appointment with the doctor in Tomball. I moved away from Tomball 6 months ago.
Okay.
And so when I called them and told them that here at this clinic, they just said, okay, well, we'll cancel that for you. I said, well, cancel it, and when am I supposed to see the doctor? She said it's sometime in May.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, getting in to see the specialist is not an easy thing
No,
to
sir.
do.
No, sir. That's the primary care doctor. You're not listening to me, guy. They are neglecting us down there. That is why we're dying.
It's very fuzzy.
I don't have no teeth in my mouth. I can't hardly talk. They're doing everything they can to screw us. It's almost like they're pushing us to suicide. They had some lady call me here and ask me, I don't know what keeps you hanging on. Is that something that you guys are trained to tell somebody who's suicidal? Is, damn, guy, I don't know what keeps you hanging on.
Well,
That's almost
I might have
encouraging,
phrased
you know.
it differently.
Yeah.
I might have phrased it differently, more along the lines of what has kept you, alive so far with all of this. How have you been able to manage it?
Well,
Not necessarily say, I don't know what. Of course I don't know what, because I haven't asked you about it, right? And
well, in the
putting a
past,
judgment on it like
with
that.
family, I had my mother and my brother, and I had 2 cats that I've had for 20 years and lost all that this year. All of it. Amongst dealing with this VA system and their bullshit, I've lost almost all my immediate family. You know, when I'm down here living in the area, I've been down here.
It sounds like in spite of it all, like they're not saying you're medically to the point where you need to be hospitalized.
They're not saying nothing, Garland. I can't get it. I haven't seen a specialist up there. You know, 5 years ago, when I was at the VA before I moved to Alabama, I finally got to see a neurologist. The neurologist said, "Oh yeah, man, we can take care of them spasms and cramps right away." He said, "Valium will. That's what Valium is made for. Is spasms and cramp." He said that them spasms and cramps will go away right away. You just need to tell your primary care doctor, because he'll have to write that prescription for you. You know, every 30 days or whatever. Every 90 days, and you don't come back to me for prescriptions. So I went back to the primary care doctor and said, the neurologist said that this diazepam would be really good for these spasms and cramps, and he just said no. He's not gonna sign his name on there. He don't want to be liable, I guess. Is that the thing, that none of them want to be liable, so they just don't do it, and then there's nobody to say, hey, you're not doing that. And we get to suffering, you know, just like that Marine colonel that was suffering from kidney stones, and they wouldn't help him with his pain, so he put his dress blues uniform on and went to the VA campus and shot himself in the head on top of his medical record. You know, and that was shortly after the one went to the Georgia VA Medical Center and set himself on fire. You know, that goes way beyond 22 veterans dying a day from suicide. That's martyrdom. Those guys are screaming the loudest possible scream that they can scream that the VA is not taking care of us.
Now, you know, you've mentioned suicide and suicidal acts of other people. Are you yourself having thoughts of suicide today?
I have thoughts of suicide every day.
Has it ever been to the point where you attempted to end your life before?
Twice. Twice I've ended up in the hospital from.
What's going on then?
Well, the first time the VA social worker was supposed to be trying to help me get into a handicap accessible apartment. He'd been working with me for 3 or 4 months. He kept delaying it and not doing his job till the point came down where I was fixing to be evicted. He said, just go down there and tell them you're a veteran and you need to stay here for a little while longer and they'll let you stay. They said, no, sir, the property's been bought. This is a new owner is buying this property and they want all Section 8 people out. And so he said, you can just put your stuff in storage and go sleep in a tent. So I took all, that was when I was taking that methadone that they put me on. What they said was not for pain, but it did put me in very much of a comatose state. For 4 years, basically, I just slept. Now that's probably what happened to my teeth, because I breathed through my mouth like that. So I think that probably what happened to my teeth. But I was seeing no medical doctors. Nobody said, hey, something's happening with your teeth. Nothing. I was just laid there for 4 years, rotting away until that medicine wasn't working anymore. It started to wane. I was on the 2nd floor. I started where I couldn't get it in and out of the house. I couldn't get up and down the stairs. I damn sure couldn't get out and go hunt down apartments that were handicap accessible. That's why this social worker with the HUD Bash Act team for suicide at-risk veterans was supposed to be helping me do, and he didn't do anything and left me there in the lurch. So 3 days before I was going to be evicted, I took like 14 days worth of that methadone, like 1,300 milligrams or something. I just sat there and drank like 14 bottles, one after another, and that dumbass came into my apartment, and I got 2 hours after I did it, my eyes were crossed. I couldn't focus. I couldn't hardly talk. I was so blasted, and they didn't see nothing. They walked away and left me out of there. So I just laid down, and thought I wouldn't wake up. But when I woke up the next day, I called my psychiatrist down there to tell him, that I had done that, and I knew I was going to get sick from being on that medicine for so long and not taking it no more. So they called the fire department over there. When the Houston Fire Department showed up and said, "When did you take this medicine?" I said, "I took it yesterday morning and went to bed and then woke up, and they said, "You took it yesterday?" And I said, "Yeah." So they pulled all their gear out and did my vital signs, and they said, "Well, man, there's nothing really wrong with you. You have anybody can come over here and sit with you. We're just gonna leave you here if you got somebody to sit with you." And but my family was too far away, so they said, "Well, we can't leave you here. We're going to have to take you down there, or they want us to take you down there." So I went down to the VA and to see my psychiatrist, and they took me into the emergency room and injected me with Narcan. Now, like I said, I wasn't in any distress. There was nothing wrong with me. And if you'll go onto the Narcan website and read, the first thing that it says is you do not administer Narcan to anybody that's been on long-term methadone maintenance. And it made me very sick. I think I still have nerve damage from that. I mean, it set my whole body on fire. I had pulled all my clothes off. I was naked in the ER. My IV had got pulled out because I pulled it out as soon as I felt that stuff making me sick. I pulled it out, but it was too late. I fell down on the floor. I became disoriented. I fell on the floor. There's a puddle of blood coming out of my vein. Mucus is just pouring out of my mouth. Just copious amounts of mucus was just pouring out of my mouth. So there's a puddle of blood and mucus in the floor, and I'm crawling around in that on my hands and knees, butt naked, and all those people are just standing around me and looking at me like I'm some kind of circus show. And then they all ran and left me there by myself, begging somebody to help me. That was that. And so Talk, that was about 7 years ago, I think. Talk, the social worker that didn't do nothing, takes vacation and leaves. This is right when I'm getting evicted. And says, "Oh, here, this other lady's going to help you. She's a veteran. She'll help you." So this other veteran comes and picks me up. Now, bear in mind, sir, I have good credit. I've never not paid my rent. Never had any type of financial problems like that. She takes me to some ghetto in North Houston, one of the worst neighborhoods in Houston, that these people will sign a lease for you no matter what. And it was literally a ghetto. They're supposed to be providing us safe and affordable housing. They put me in possibly the worst place to be in Houston. A drug den, a crack ghetto. And so I was there for a year, and as soon as that lease was coming up, I told them I can't stay here, It's unsafe. There's drugs everywhere. There's prostitution. There's crime. Cops all the time. I don't want to be here. We're going to help you get somewhere else. The social worker is in my house talking to me and telling me that they said to just sign the lease again for another year. And then in the meanwhile, we'll be finding you a handicap accessible apartment. And then you can break the lease as soon as we find you a new place. So that she's telling me to go down there and sign a year lease with these people, and that I'll be able to break it and get out as soon as they get me a handicap accessible apartment. So I had her call that office manager and have him tell me that. Unbeknownst to her, I'd already talked to the man and knew the answer. And he told her no. If he signs the lease, he's here for a year. But she intentionally lied to me and tried to get me to do something that would have hurt me. That's the crisis team for at-risk veterans, homeless veterans program social worker. That's the help that we're getting. And we're calling you people and telling y'all that, and nothing's changing. No matter what Trump does, the VA has a way of getting around all that. And they just left us here to die. And I'm not going to die silently, until as many people as I can that the VA is doing this to us. Not just for myself, but for any other veteran out there that might benefit from that.
So where are you living now?
I live in an apartment here in Clute, Texas.
Okay, so did you get out of that place you were in before?
Yes, I got into that government health care, and then I moved to Alabama to live with this old man. This old man had been like a father to me as a child, till I was like 10 years old, and he was like 80ish, uh, and struggling. But like me, he could do some things, just not everything. So I told him, like if I cook and you can clean, I love to cook. I'll cook dinner, you clean the dishes, and then we'll be here and have company with each other and not be alone. But he has severe anger problems and some severe psychosis that his son had warned me about. But I thought it might be something that we could work through. But after 3 or 4 months, that wasn't working out. So I went back down to the VA hospital and asked them about the homeless veterans program again, since I was going to be back on the street. And the lady said that we don't have any vouchers for homeless veterans. We haven't had any this year, and we don't know when we're going to get any more. Well, I called the National Homeless Veterans Crisis Hotline and had a voucher the next week. So she lied to me. And they're all black people down there, so I'm only assuming that they're racially denying access to some people based on race, because there's no diversity at the VA. There's no diversity there. There's a total lack of diversity. They preach about diversity. Veterans don't get diversity. So, nevertheless, they put me in touch with a housing specialist to help me find a place to live, and he doesn't have a phone. He doesn't have a phone. He doesn't have an office. He doesn't have an extension. There's no way of getting a hold of this guy despite going down there to the VA hospital and finding him in there. That's the housing specialist for homeless veterans looking for housing. I mean, I'm telling y'all that VA system is utterly corrupt, and what y'all are doing is not helping. That's why the veteran suicide rate is not going down.
Well, obviously there's a lot here, right? And I'm kind of, let you kind of talk through a lot of the concerns that you've been having and speaking to your past history and experience. And you talked some about your present day concerns, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so I guess given all of this, right, because you've been through all the channels, it sounds like, right?
Yeah.
So I don't want to just sit here and say, okay, well, listen, I can do a consult and have the suicide prevention coordinator follow up within a business day.
No, they
regarding your mental health concerns.
They just route that call to
a the VA White House hotline, but you've done all those things.
Yeah.
Let me finish. I'm just saying, I can offer all that stuff that you've done already, and you're not trying to go back into those resources. It doesn't sound like.
I just want some help with my back. I can't sit here and suffer like this day after day. Isolated, filthy, hungry. My whole life in disarray. I can't go to the outside. I'm just sitting here slowly dying. And that's what I told somebody the other day, you get to a point where there won't be no more phone calls. And when I finally give up, I'm not calling nobody else. Because it doesn't do no good anyway. It wasn't my intent to even get to you guys today. It was that lady. Like I said, I guess the signal where if they just want to brush you off to somebody else as fast as they can, and you guys apparently have become the catch-all. That y'all can say that we talked to him and we routed him to the VA, and the lady that's supposed to call you back in a day now has 2 days to call you back, if she calls you back. If you don't answer the phone right away, she's not going to call you back again. And 9 times out of 10, it's not her, it's some social worker or somebody with a high school degree down there calling back. They remove it, they compartmentalize it and demote it. And once you've complained 2 or 3 times, then they just move you down the line to where you're not even talking to them anymore. It's almost like the issue is just scrubbed out. It's just not even being acknowledged anymore. You're just routed to somebody way down the chain that doesn't document anything. It just talks to you for a minute and frustrates you, and nothing changes.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's tough because you're saying I want very specific
want some quality of life. I want to be able to go outside and see the grass and hear the birds and drive my car and listen to the radio or anything. I can't do nothing. Just sitting here slowly dying and begging everybody I can think of to beg for help.
I mean, could you use the Mission Act and go through a civilian hospital?
I'm not even sure how that works, but I went to the ER here yesterday, and like every other ER that I go to, they do not treat chronic pain.
Right.
Chronic pain is not treated at the ER. It's not, and it shouldn't be. It's something that should be treated with a pain management doctor. That's what I've asked to see, and that's what I have been denied. For 6 months, they have denied me access to a pain management doctor, either in Houston or either here in the community. They sent me to somebody here to get an injection in my knee almost right away. But when it came down to my back, they're not wanting, nobody wants to do it. I guess because they know it's fucked up and they don't want it to see it. So they say, we got to have your records from Dr. Down. Well, Dr. Down just gave me morphine for 3 months. That's all he did. I was scheduled to get an injection in his back before my insurance canceled. The last injection I would have got in my back would have been in November. And that lasts about 3 months. And that helps a lot.
Wait, can't you just get those records released to you? Can't you just go down and to medical records and request a copy of them or sign a release of information at the hospital so they can send the records to VA?
I called those people up there like 5 times, and all I can get is an answering machine, and they won't return my calls. They're in Tomball, man. It's like 100 and something miles away. It's on the far north side of Houston. So the VA clinic down here, after 3 months of that, and me saying, why do y'all need that? Just look at the MRIs and just go forward from there. I mean, you have the medical information of my condition in front of you. Why do you need to talk to this guy that's treating me in a treatment that y'all aren't even considering treating me with? And not even asking for the records from Alabama, the 4 years that I saw a doctor. They're not even concerned about that. That's where you would glean any information from, would be that. It's just an excuse, sir, to deny me service. And so I went to the clinic, and the lady said there, well, you can sign a records release here in our office and we can fax that to them. And then they can send your records back here via fax. So I went up there and signed that paper and waited and waited and waited. Another 2 weeks, I called back up there and said, what's the deal? And actually it was some lady calling to do a survey about my mental health and asking me all these questions that making me upset, and asked them about these records, and she looked in the thing and she said, they said that they didn't get the fax up there. That was it. Nobody tried to resend the fax. It didn't get done. Is there not a process for a doctor's office to get records from a doctor's office if you sign a records release that they have in hand? And the VA clinic can't do that. And until the point yesterday when I was physically fixing to drive up there to get this paperwork from these people, and the cops wouldn't let me drive because I was too unsafe to drive. And I told them, yeah, the VA just sent me away like that. The VA sent me away with a heart rate of 150, and my blood pressure was 6 digits. It was 3 digits over 3 digits. Way, way high. And they sent me home like that. Soaking wet. My hands and my feet just soaking wet. I'm just curled up in a ball, and they just send me away. So I just crawled in my car. How are you driving your car? Lay that car seat back as far as I can. That's about the only comfortable position I can get in anyway. That car seat's probably the most comfortable seat I can sit in because it's so adjustable. And then all I got to do is be able to just barely see over the dash, and then I can steer with my fingers. As long as I'm not in a bunch of traffic, because that does start to hurt my knees and my hip, having to work the brake and everything. But as long as there's not no traffic, I can kind of just get behind that thing and just kind of point it and go. And that's what I told the cops. I said, all I got to do is keep it between the line. He said, no, you're really not safe to drive. Well, the VA is telling me to drive to Houston to get these records. That's what they're telling me to do, and you're telling me I'm not safe to drive. And this congressman's office up here is running and hiding. So I called these White House people back, but I've been waiting 3 weeks to hear back from the 3 weeks it took them to resolve the case that never got resolved in the first place. So now we're 6 weeks into that, and 6 months into me not having health care. And I'm telling you, man, I just can't keep going on like this.
At the end of the day, you're saying, I got to get out there one way or another to that doctor that I saw and get a copy of my records and get them to the VA one way or another.
Right.
You tried doing faxing, you didn't get the fax, and then you got to send it back over, and then you really don't have any confidence that they're going to get it and then send the paperwork back.
She couldn't transfer me a call and the thing. I asked her, I said, you know what? I said, transfer me to that office manager you got down there. And she didn't know how to transfer phone calls. This is the lady that's supposed to be sending a fax to somebody. She can't transfer a phone call.
Mm-hmm. So, all this being said, right, because I get the gist of the issue, right, and I get the feeling of being stuck, and you're just like, I'm stuck, and, everywhere I go, I'm not getting my needs met, and, I feel like I'm just spinning my wheels and stuff like that. So I guess, given your history and everything that you've talked about, what and how can I be of help to you right now, right? I don't want to waste your time. I don't want to, have you referred over to places that you're not looking to be referred to. And yet also there are limits on, what I have access to and the types of, assistance that I can provide from the Veterans Crisis Line, right? So, I just want to make sure that our time spent is productive and helpful to you if it can be. And if not, then you and I can, figure out where you're going from here. Right? Because you're saying, listen, it doesn't do me any good to go to the ER because they don't treat the chronic pain in the ER.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You're saying, I've talked to the VA, I've talked to the suicide prevention, I've talked to the homeless program. Do you have a case manager?
No, sir.
Okay. Just because you mentioned being in Hondash before, and usually that comes with some kind of a case manager.
I did. When I was in the HUD vets, I was in the at-risk suicide. They called it the ACT team, and they had failed me repeatedly there. I was struggling there in Alabama to pay my power bill. It was real far away. I had a scooter that I could get around Birmingham pretty easy. I could get to the doctor. I could get to the grocery store, but the power company was way far away. And despite there being Obama phones, the VA couldn't even help me get a telephone, even though they were free. So I talked to that social worker, told him I hadn't eaten in 2 days, so I was out of money, but I was getting paid. I just needed a ride down there to pay my electric bill. He says, I'll come back here next Tuesday. Don't really care about you not having food, but I'll come back next Tuesday and give you a ride down there to pay your electric bill. Never showed up. That happened over and over and over again. They're supposed to help me file my taxes. They didn't do it. They're supposed to take me over to the United Way so I get my taxes filled. Just an hour trip, not even 20 minutes away. They're going to ride me over there and get my taxes done so I get my tax credit for this Obamacare, and they didn't show up. So that didn't get done. So I didn't get to file my taxes last year, and that screwed everything else up. And now I'm back here in this VA, and I'm literally at the end of my rope.
I mean,
it's just
what
gonna be some
sounds like too
spontaneous.
is you're saying you're completely and utterly dependent on other people, right? That's what I'm hearing. I'm hearing, I needed, people to pick me up and take me, out to get my taxes done. I needed somebody to give me a ride out to pay my electric bill. I'm basically consistently waiting on and requiring assistance of other people to meet my needs. I'm not able to do it on my own.
for like 6 years, when I was in Houston, I had gotten the what they called the transit lift. I mean, say Metro lift was for disabled people. It was run by the city bus company. It was very, very hard to utilize. A trip to the VA to get my medicine could easily last 6 hours. And I had to go down there twice a week to get my medicine. So twice a week I'd have to get up at 4:30 in the morning, get in my wheelchair, and go sit out in my mother's driveway waiting for a transit guy that might or might not even show up. And then they show up, well then they got to pick other people up. So you're just getting jammed around and bounced around in the back of this vehicle with a bad back. Get to the VA, get my medicine. But I mean, I had access to Metro Lift and things like that. But when I moved to closer to my mother, I didn't need it quite so much. I was real close to the grocery store there. I could ride my scooter there, and could get, you know, my mom and them to come pick me up. Cause by then I wasn't in that main. When they took me down there to the ER and injected me with that Narcan, was the last time I ever took methadone from the VA. Period. Last time I took methadone. Period. I quit cold turkey from that day forward. I was not gonna. The medicine wasn't the right medicine. It was hurting me, not helping me. And at that point, I said, you know, y'all don't know what y'all are doing down here, and I'm not taking this methadone anymore. And contacted Ted Cruz's office. Well, his regional editor said his dad was also being screwed by the VA, and his dad went to Harris County and got a gold card to use the county hospital. But by the time I got into the county hospital, all that stuff was being re-regulated. But I got into the Obamacare thing. And as soon as I got into the Obamacare, I went to a primary care doctor. He said, oh my God. He put me on morphine right away and made me an appointment to see a pain management doctor in a week. And within a week, I was back on the regimen of pain medication that I needed to be able to function. And I'm not talking about playing racquetball, sir. I'm talking about washing my body and cooking food. And now they've taken that away from me. And now I can't even do that. You know, outside of putting a canned soup in a pot. That's the only dish I have in this house that I keep dirty is that pot, because that's the only thing that I can wash. I can't wash more than one dish and make that one can of soup. But 9 times out of 10, after I've made that soup, I got to come in here and sit down, and it'll be cold by the time I'm ready to eat it. And then it just doesn't get eaten. And so I'm just not eating. You know, if it's a passive way, I can starve to death. I just don't know how long it starves to death. Or die from malnutrition, but maybe a stroke. So I guess basically I'm on a hunger
So let's talk
strike.
a little bit about it, right? Because we talked kind of through where you're feeling, right?
Yes.
I'm hearing, you know, obviously hopelessness, helplessness, you know, chronic thoughts about suicide, previous suicide attempts, you know, trying to access, you know, care in different avenues.
Right.
Now, you know, do you have access to a firearm?
Yes, I do.
You do? Okay.
Yes,
Alright, so number one, let's talk about that. Because, you know, firearms are highly lethal, and you have chronic thoughts about suicide. I mean, do you feel like that, you know, means restriction, basically restricting your access to your firearm such that you can't easily access it to shoot yourself is something that, you know, we need to consider here and talk through a little bit.
No, I mean that 9mm is way too small a caliber. That was a gift to me for house watching for this guy some years ago. I mean, it's got 17 rounds in it. Be pretty wicked little Beretta, but you know, suicide, you're only going to get one shot, and that 9mm is just not a big enough caliber for me to feel safe that it would not. I don't want to be wounded too. You know, if I kill myself, I'm going to be 100% sure. But I ran into a guy at the gas station there. They helped me get dressed at the gas station because all I was able to get on was my slippers and my shorts. But some guys at the gas station helped me get my shirt on and pump the gas for me. And one of them offered. He said, "Have you tried marijuana?" And I said, "Yeah." I said, "It doesn't work." He said, "With appetite?" I said, "No, it's nothing's working. It's nothing." He said, "Well, man, I can get pain pills from you." And I said, "Man, I can't afford to buy pain pills on the street. I have to have them every month. You know, they're way too expensive to buy on the street. To buy 30 of them a month would be,
Yeah.
240,000.
Now, are you in any kind of substance abuse treatment program?
Sir?
Are you in any kind of substance abuse treatment program?
No, sir. I've never abused substances.
Okay.
I
Okay.
quit drinking alcohol.
You know,
And I don't
obviously,
drink.
there's substance abuse history, that plays into, access to medications and stuff. Now, let's talk about pills a little bit while we're on the subject here, because you said when you tried to overdose before, you took a bunch of methadone and overdose
Yeah.
with it to kill yourself.
Right.
So, I mean, what medications do you have access to at home at this point?
Well, nothing, but that's what I was saying. This guy offered me some Norcodes at the gas station yesterday, and I told him no, that it wouldn't work. But he gave me his phone number, and I thought about it driving home last night, and they sent me home in a cab. The taxpayers paid $143 to send me home in a cab for some services that were never rendered. But I thought about it then, I could call that guy and go ahead and just buy 30 or 40 of those hydrocodone and just take all those, and then that would do the trick, I'm sure. And that's my idea, is to peacefully just be able to just lay down and go to sleep, Not something as traumatic as a gunshot, as I worry about not being successful. The last serious time, I waded out into the Gulf of Mexico. I live right here on the beach. I waded out to the third sandbar. The water was up to about my neck, and I had put a bunch of rolls of quarters in both of my pockets, so that after the gun blast, I knew I would at least be incapacitated enough to go under the water, and that I would drown if the bullet didn't kill me. I would drown, but 2 hours I sat out there in that water trying to do it, and all I could close my eyes, and all I could see was my face sinking down in that water with blood just pouring out of my head, and it just more than I could stand. I couldn't bear it. And I certainly don't want to jeopardize my eternal soul, but the Jews committed suicide at Masada to escape the Romans, and I'm starting to believe that would be what I'm doing. I'm just escaping the utter disdain that Americans have for humanity. They just don't care about us. So, the Russians allow them to continuously to mistreat me and neglect me, and then lie to the American taxpayer and tell them that they're taking care of me. It's just more than I can bear. So I'm calling the White House hotline, trying to find out what's going on. They're saying the same thing. More time. Everybody says more time. It's been 6 months since I've asked to see a specialist. If you hurt your back and went to the doctor and needed to see a specialist, sir, how long do you think it would take for you to get in to see a specialist for your back?
I don't know. I mean, it depends, right?
What would be acceptable? What would be
One
acceptable?
of mine is like a once a year thing, kind of. You know what I mean? Like sometimes you got to go in and see a specialist once a year for different things, and exactly how backed up they are.
Okay, well, just take a stab. I mean, what? Just 2 weeks, a month, 6 weeks. What would you find acceptable? If your knee was hurt, you twisted your knee, and you need to see it.
I had access to were two very different things.
So, what would you consider acceptable health care? If you twisted your knee and needed to see an orthopedic doctor, and you went to your primary care doctor and said, "Yeah, you torn a ligament in your knee. You need to see an orthopedic guy about your knee. We'll make a referral for you to go see him." How long do you think that might take, or how long would it be acceptable for that to take for you? or for your child?
I mean, it could take months. I
No,
mean, I don't know how many months, but it
6
could
months.
take
No,
months
sir. It's like 2
to
weeks.
be able to get
It's
you
like
in.
2 weeks. 2 weeks is acceptable.
Okay.
2 weeks to call your doctor and go in and see him, and then X-ray your knee and say it's busted. 2 weeks would probably be the maximum amount of time that it should take you to see somebody about your knee, a specialist.
Again,
When I called them
don't know
about my
nothing again.
knee, they called somebody and had me see a knee guy the next week. It's been 6 months now since I've asked to see a specialist about my back, and they deny it in every avenue that they can deny it. So, and why they transferred to me, to you, I don't know, because I know that there's nothing that y'all can do, and I know that there's nothing going to happen for
How
this.
was, let me answer that. How was explained to me, and what you spent time talking about at the very beginning of this phone call, was that you had tried to get in touch with the Veterans Crisis Line and were not able to reach us, and you had concerns that we were maybe intentionally not taking your phone calls.
My initial phone call was to the White House hotline. And the White House hotline ran a thing at the very beginning that said if you're feeling suicidal to call these people. And so I said, let me talk to them again. And the phone was disconnected. And so I called them back. And I didn't want to talk to them. I said, look, they're disconnected to me. I'm just not working. It doesn't work anyway. I want to continue on with our conversation. But she just abruptly transferred me back into your box, I guess, to get her off of her system. So
Okay. So let's talk a little bit more about safety planning, right?
there's no more safety planning, sir. There's no more safety planning. I don't know what access you have to my records there, or how many phone calls that you can see that I've made there, or the conversations that I've had with people there. But the things that y'all have said and done over the last 6 months are all exhausted. I can't even watch comedy on YouTube because it cuts through my brain. I can't listen to music, it hurts me. All I can do basically is sit here in the dark, you know, and struggle to find something that I can read, but I can't hardly read because I'm confused real bad because all this pain is in my mind. I can't think straight. So all I can do is sit here in this chair and just constantly adjust it to keep you know, one side's hurting, I gotta adjust it to keep the other side from hurting. And I go down there, lay down in the bed, and I lay in the bed for 3 or 4 hours, and I can't sleep. And my shoulder's in a knot, my neck is in a knot, and I can't get comfortable. And I fall asleep, I might sleep 3, maybe 4 hours. And then it's all over again. I just come in here and sit in this chair. Now I can't make coffee. All I can do is sit here. I just sit here. You know, 18 hours, just sitting in this chair. No television. I got.
Well, what I'm getting at is what is you from calling that number that you got from that guy and buying pain meds or some kind of medication to overdose, some kind of narcotic.
Yeah, I
So
think.
that's explicitly what you had said, that you are having thoughts about buying medication
Yes,
off the street with intent to overdose on them.
Yes, Yes. Yes, that's right.
Yeah, and that's serious. And
That's help, sir. That's relief. That's help and relief that I can't get from the people that are offering me help and relief. I've asked you for help and relief. I've asked my congressman for help and relief. I've asked my senator for help and relief. I've asked Obama for help and relief. I've asked Trump for help and relief. I've asked Ted Cruz for help and relief. I've asked Senator John Cornyn for help and relief. And now I've asked this jackass Congressman Weber down here in Clute for relief. And it's still all the same runaround. The office managers or gatekeepers, they don't even provide that information probably to them congressmen. They're probably clueless. You know, they had some kind of damn veteran suicide awareness thing in the park down here yesterday right across the street from my house, and I couldn't go to it because I couldn't get out of the house. I mean, it's Saturday, I think it was. But I mean, I wanted to go over there with some signs and tell those people that were there for this, take this vow of 22 and tell them that they're all full of shit. Y'all all just a non-profit organization looking for money. Y'all aren't helping us. Hell, I'm right here across the street dying and I can't get no help. So what am I supposed to? You tell me what am I supposed to do then? You tell me what's the next step? I can't go to the ER. I can't go to the VA. Congress is not listening, and my calls to you guys just end up in a circle. So what's next?
Well, here's the thing. If you said dying, if you are dying and having a medical emergency, then you go to the emergency room.
Well, I mean, if your pulse is 150 and your blood pressure is 165 over 120, and they send you outside to go home, that's not very good ER care. I guess they're just basically saying the same thing. Just send him home to die. Maybe his heart will blow up. The second time they sent me away from the VA, I went to my congressman's office and they called an ambulance. I just left the VA.
Right. Well, that's what I'm getting at. If you're saying, listen, I am suicidal right now, planning on, going out, getting meds and overdosing on them with intent to die, then, you go to the hospital emergency room for suicidal ideation.
Yeah, I've done that, brother. They fucking put you in the hospital, but they don't treat your back.
Right, they're not going to treat you back, but they're going to put you in the hospital.
That fucking doesn't do any good. I just end up in the same situation. It's not gotten any better, and I'm tired. It's over. They introduced this Veterans Choice Program that said the veterans could use the VA outside the VA system if they lived so far away from the VA or couldn't get an appointment within so much time. So I qualified for that. And I called the Veterans Choice people on the card and said, okay, I want to use this system because they can't see me and blah, blah, blah. And she says, well, okay, but you still have to get authorization from the main VA hospital. So I called the main VA hospital and said I need to get authorization to use this Veterans Choice Program, and they're saying that I need somebody there to sign off on it. Well, we don't know who that is. So eventually I get a phone number, and I call it, and it just goes to voicemail. There's no voicemail. It just rolls over to a voicemail, and then it goes, you can't leave a voice message. Nobody answers the phone, so you can't get authorization. And I called the Veterans Choice lady back and said, ma'am, I can't get nobody on the phone down there. How do I get into this program? And she called EMS because I was hurting so bad. She said, my God, I can hear how much pain you're in. You should go to the doctor. She said, I'm going to call the ambulance over there. You need to go and see somebody about your back. The ambulance gets me and takes me up to this hospital in Houston, and they put me in the psychiatric ward. And then they transfer me to the Houston Psychiatric Hospital, and 2 days later, when the doctors show up, because they're off on the weekends, comes in there and says, what's your problem? I said, my back is hurting. And he says, well, I'm a psychiatrist. And I said, well, I don't know what to tell you, guy, my back is hurting. Well, we can't treat your back here. I said, then why am I here? I need to see a doctor. So they continue to keep me there for the rest of the 9 days because that's how long the law allows them to keep you there without seeing a judge, and then they discharge you on the last day. I guess they want me in front of a judge telling my story, but and then sent me back home in the same circumstances that I began with.
So
if I can't get something done about my back, if I can't get something to rectify this situation, something terrible is going to happen. And it's not any rational thought in my mind, when I get pushed so far that I can't hardly think straight, and I'm confused, and I'm suffering, and I'm in pain, and I'm confused. That's going to be the day. It will be a spontaneous event. There won't be no more phone calls. I will just get up and go do it.
So what you're saying essentially is you do not have a plan or intention of seeking out and overdosing on medications today, right now.
No, I'm thinking about it. Absolutely thinking about it.
Yeah. Yeah. If I don't send somebody to take you to a hospital, you're gonna overdose and die.
they'll have to
Because
kill
they'll
me.
keep you
They'll
alive.
have to kill me. They'll have to kill me. That'll save me from suicide, but they'll have to kill me.
You're saying the police would have to kill you.
Yes, they'll have to kill me.
So side by cop.
They're not coming into this house. Nobody's coming into this house. Nobody's coming into this house because nobody that's come into this house in the past 6 months has offered me any help but left me in the same situation that I'm in. And I'm not going through this bullshit anymore. I'm hurting so bad from yesterday. I failed 3 times yesterday trying to do this. My knees are all bruised up, and that's the only way I can get on my bed is to crawl. And I can't hardly crawl on my bed because my knees are all so bruised up. My shoulders are all torn up from trying to walk on that cane so much yesterday. I was having to hold it like a pole in the middle of me with both hands hanging on that cane because I couldn't hardly walk. And they wouldn't even offer me a walker out of the wheel to get out of the VA. They didn't offer me any type of handicap device to leave. They let me walk out of there walking on that single pole like that with both hands, stooped over like an 80-year-old man. I had to go outside and lay down on the ground but until the cab got there because my back was hurting so bad from sitting in that chair in there for 2 hours. And you're telling me that you're going to send somebody here that's going to help me? What are they going to do to help me? They're going to take me to a psychiatric hospital. That's not a solution.
Yep.
And I'm not going through that no more.
Well,
I'm not psychiatric.
here's the bottom line. What I'm hearing from you is that I don't have any safety plan, way to stay safe for right now. I am not coming off of thinking about going and getting pills, overdose of intent to kill myself because I'm so tired of this. I would just rather be dead.
Right.
And you're not, connected to any, follow-up or any support systems or, anything.
Well, I'm connected to a whole shitload of them. They're just not doing nothing.
So, but that's what I'm saying is, if you're gonna be dead, if I don't get help to you, then I gotta get help to you. Regardless of whether that helps with the medical problem, with the chronic pain problem, if it prevents you from overdosing and death by suicide while you're trying to get this pain problem resolved.
It's been 6 months and it's not been resolved. I'm frustrated and tired of trying to get it resolved. It's not going to get resolved. Who is going to resolve it? My congressman? My senator? The head of the VA? The president? Who is going to resolve it? Is somebody going to call up there at the Congress and maybe let me see the congressional doctor? Does the congressman have a doctor that can review my medical records and see the neglect and abuse that I'm being put through? Is there any third party that's interested in to see the neglect and malpractice that's happening up there? Not just to me, but to all of us? My God, they send a 70-year-old woman outside to put her 90-year-old dad in a car, and she's out there 10 minutes struggling to get the old man in the car, and not one of those pieces of shit in that ER would go out there and help her. They just sat there and watched. That's the level of care these people have for us. They're just there for their jobs. They're not there because they care about veterans. And even the veterans that they hire suck. So tired of somebody answering me, well, I'm a veteran too. Well, being a veteran doesn't mean shit. Doesn't make you a man. It doesn't make you honest and integrity. I knew a lot of veterans in the service that got kicked out for bullshit or all kinds of stuff. Just being a veteran doesn't make you anything special.
Well, when somebody says they're a veteran, veteran status implies, certain, honorable discharge, that kind of stuff, right?
Right.
It's not the guy that got kicked out for.
All I'm saying is just being a veteran does not make you a good person. There's plenty of bad veterans out there that are just like the rest of them. Just like the veteran housing specialist guy that's supposed to help me find an apartment that doesn't have a phone. No phone, no extension, no point of contact. He's the one that's helped me go find a place to live. And then when I finally did get a hold of the guy,
Did he schedule an appointment with you?
when I finally was able to go down there and find him and set an appointment with him, he took me to all the wrong places. The lady that was at the HUD Vash meeting said, take him up here on the hill of that diamond property. That's a good one for him. And he took me everywhere but that. It was yet another 3 weeks before she came to check on me, and then she took me to that guy, and I got an apartment there real close to the hospital. But then again, like I said, it was the guy that was in charge of that was totally incompetent. He had no business hiring that guy. He was incompetent to begin with, so incompetent that he couldn't keep a phone.
Again, I don't know anything about that. Whether
Well, you do now, because I just told you.
Well, no, I'm going by what you're telling me.
Right, and that's what happens with our complaints to the VA. They go to the VA and say, this guy's making this complaint. What do y'all have to say? Well, this is what we have to say. Well, that's the end of the case then. They don't never come back and ask you to follow up or retort or say, this is what they're saying. Is that true? No, they just close it out. Just like the last one that the VA White House hotline closed out without any resolution. And then I called them back and told them I wanted to open another case about the other case being closed without a resolution.
Now, do you see anybody's mental health at the VA?
Yes, I saw him the other day and he sent me home because I was in too much pain to sit there in his office. My blood pressure was 150. I mean, my blood pressure was sky high and my pulse rate was beating so fast my hands and my feet were dripping wet. All I could do was sit there in that chair curled up in the ball.
They
And it's
don't,
like,
they don't have you any blood pressure meds or anything?
no, my blood pressure is stable as long as I'm not hurting. And see, the pain starts hurting, then the cramps start cramping, and then my anxiety starts going up because I have PTSD real bad. And so it's hard enough to keep that in check. And then this pain starts, and then I go up there and I'm getting jerked around and lied to, and then I just get more and more frustrated, but I still keep going back. I still keep trying. I went up there to see that psychiatrist. I thought I was going up there to see the doctor. They did my vital signs and said, my God, this guy's sick, push his ass out the front door. And that's what they did. Put me out the front door into my car and sent me on my way. At damn near stroke level. And so they did it again the other day. And like I said, I went directly to my congressman's office that day and they called an ambulance. They took me to the hospital that did the same shit. Come on, guy, I got critical people in here to take care of. I said, well, then here, don't let me get in your way. Just get my shit right out of here. And I crawled out of that hospital on my hands and knees and laid down out there on the ground in front of the Brazosport Memorial Hospital for 30 minutes waiting for a cab. To the point where I just decided to try to get up and just walk out to the street and hitchhike. But as soon as I got to a curb over there, I fell on that curb and banged my knees up. And
All right. Well, listen, because, I know this because you've mentioned it before, kind of about the scenario and all the trials and tribulations, and that's been kind of the content of the entire phone call. I'm understanding and empathizing with that scenario. Really, I'm into action right now, not continuing to you and I talk about it, because we've done that, right? And you're feeling like nobody's doing anything.
nobody, it's not a feeling, it's a fact.
You don't want to do them, which is, I understand. The bottom line is, are you going to be dead if I don't get somebody to you to get you to a hospital? That's brass tacks what it boils down to. Because you don't want to go to a hospital, so unless there's a suicide or homicide risk such that you are going to be dead by suicide, if I don't send somebody to your location, outside of that, I'm not doing anything. I'm not sending anybody to you. I'm not doing a consult because you don't want it.
No, you can do consults if you want to. That's better. Yeah, I want as much paper trail going to that VA as possible. No, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. The last guy filed a complaint there to your agency. That's what got to that White House the first time. But they just rerouted it back to some other VA person. But this time I'm not going to let them do that. I don't want to talk to no more VA people. talk to somebody that's in charge up there at the White House. Don't transfer me back into some VA. They compartmentalize that stuff and hide it. That's why they don't want to give me my records, because they want to be able time to go through there and make sure they can take out whatever errors and mistakes and bullshit that they've made and scrub those documents through legal before they release them. Why else, if you're standing there at the clinic that's servicing you, can they not hand you your records? I need my records to go to a doctor, and they said no.
To release of information and request and
Yes, I was right there in their office, sir, to sign any document that they wanted. I'm sitting right there in their office.
In release of information's office.
At the clinic, they have all those documents there. You can sign a release of information. I signed one to get my records sent from Dr. Dow that never got sent. So I could sign another release of information to me myself that I would like to have a copy of my medical records, because the doctor across the street is saying the same thing that you're saying. He's not going to treat me till he gets these records. And now you're saying that you're not going to release me my records because why? I'm standing right here. I can sign whatever you need me to sign. Hand me my records. Print them out and hand them to me.
You
Why?
have to go to a specific office within the VA and request copies of
Right,
your
right. That's so legal can scrub all the bullshit out of there and clean it up. That's right. Because they're corrupt and and that's why nothing's happening, and that's why no complaints are resolved. Our complaints are resolved without being resolved. I've been to the hospital. It was no help. Going to the hospital is no help. My God. I called the White House complaint line to complain and got reverted to the suicide hotline, which now apparently seems to be the catch-all. They're the ones that are the gatekeepers now for complaints about veteran suicide. And then I guess once a veteran commits suicide, there's no documentation or whatever there needs to be. They need to document these suicides, who they are, what treatments that they were receiving or not receiving, and any type of communications that they meant for the public to read about their neglect and malpractice. And so it should all become public information immediately, so that we can make a better determination on exactly why these suicides are happening. And do something, because the VA is not doing nothing. And the American people are just sitting by while these veterans are suffering to death. I laid down on the floor at my congressman's office, and 8 people walked by me and never said a word. Not that I wanted them to, but 8 people walked by and saw a man laying on the ground incapacitated and never said a word. Never offered to call medical. One of them did eventually call the police. The police came to the congressman's office to escort me out of there. They said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm waiting for the congressman. The door says they'll open at 3:30. That was not right. They didn't do that right. Said they're not going to be back. So they took me outside and put me in a police car and took me to Houston and abandoned me at the Houston VA with no way home in the middle of the night. And I left there with no appreciable medical treatment.